Alright guys, let's come back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Roster Mania is not going away. We thought Cloud9 had their roster of 4, but it turns out at the last minute a couple of the players they were trying to sign rejected the poverty offer. That means they've gone for a different set of players that now it seems might be locked in for the upcoming season. This team, if you put together their challenger seeds, would barely be scraping top 16 in the tier 2 of the Call of Duty world, let alone top 12 of the Pro League. This is a seriously remarkable situation that we have not seen ever in this league before. Many opinions on it, especially because it might not be the only change of this period. Scrap seemingly reveals there could be something going on at Toronto. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always. Let's just dive into things. Brack does tweet this out. Don't know if there's anything in this. Of course, Boston, they thought they were considering a change. That's at least what we thought. There was a rumor that Purge and Cammy could potentially be on the chopping block. We talked about it briefly on the show last night, and Trey said, look, if you're going to make a change, as in if the players know that you're going to drop them, then maybe you just have to follow through with it because it's difficult to get the chemistry back to a certain point. Now, maybe they were never considering a change, we don't really know, but there was a rumour that Boston were at least contemplating what they could do to build around Snoopy and Nasty, which I think might at some point be a valid idea. The reality is that it's difficult to judge the Boston team that we saw in Major 1 because they were so close to making it to winners bracket. They only lost out of that because they got reverse swept by Surge, which should never happen, but look, they got reverse swept by Surge online. That put them to losers. First round of losers, they played FaZe, and they lost in 4. They were leading the overload at one point as well, tied 1-1. So kind of difficult to judge Boston. I understand sticking it out. I understand making a change as well. But I do think that with the core of Snoopy and Nasty, they should be, they should be looking at G2 and thinking we can make Sundays. Of course, they were nowhere near that at the first tournament of the year. Vivid says, myself, Mack, so they're running it back again, Gio and Yuli. So that's going to be the team of 4, and Juju, the Don as the coach, are looking for an org to represent. So that should be one of the top challenger teams. Look, let's be honest, if you put this team of 4 up against the supposed Cloud9 roster, where Vivid and Mack were just playing for, I think right now there's probably only one winner, but honestly, who knows? It's one of the more remarkable stories we have had in the COD League, and let's get into the update. So, Encourage says it's official. Now, there's been lots of debate. Should Encourage and Okis and others be actually taking this offer? Benjay said the offer he thinks might well be borderline illegal, or it might be illegal. So just the quick background, the players were getting paid on this team $48,000 for the calendar year. Now, I'm not 100% sure how that breaks down. Of course, that's $4,000 per month, but obviously they only play until like August. So how does that work? Do they really get all of that money, or do they just get the portion that they're, if they get dropped, they probably don't get the whole lot, do they? So the $24,000 a year figure, which is now what they're paying, $2K a month, I'm pretty sure, although I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's literally just $2K a month. So, and that's before taxes, right? So, I mean, what an absolute shambles. So I'm pretty sure they will play. I mean, Encourage joins now in February. He's going to be off the team by at least August. He's probably going to get paid $2K a month for that time period. He'll make 12 racks. And yeah, it's not exactly great, is it, when it comes to what's meant to be a professional franchise level league? And this is my primary frustration about this, is that in most franchise sports this doesn't really matter because the players are getting paid regardless. In COD, you've got this situation where there are challengers teams that would be willing to do more. If it was an open circuit, you would get organizations coming in. Even for a lot of time there was talk about TSM getting involved in COD again, even other orgs. They would come into tier 2. It wouldn't even be tier 2 because it would all be an open system, but they would pay more money, they would sign better players, and they would get promoted. They'd qualify for the league, they'd make the Cloud9 to this world get relegated. That's not how it works anymore. So the question was, do you even take this offer as a player? Look, in my opinion, as bad as the offer is, look, I get it, because if you're Encouraged, your Stallions red team just placed top 24 at the LAN event. Major 1 is often the most important major of the season for the Challengers players because that's when there are lots of changes. This time we haven't seen crazy blow up, so I'm sure that there will be more down the line. There might even be more changes before we go to Birmingham, in which case still Major 1 was very important for the Challengers because that was your proper LAN chance. Now, for the Stallions guys, they didn't do well on LAN. Top 24, top 16. for the two Stallions rosters respectively. So they weren't getting signed off the back of that. So the fact that Cloud9 have seemingly called up every single notable player from the top teams and everyone's told them to F off until they've got down to like the top 24, now they're saying yes. It's like, well, yeah, I get it, right? Like Encourage probably wasn't going to get an opportunity like this in other circumstances, so now this is the chance that, you know, he's been wanting in the Pro League. And to be fair, you take this opportunity, you get to play on the pro level against the absolute top level players, and people get to see what you're made of to a certain extent. I can understand people taking the offer. I know that people are going to say, oh, you shouldn't do it, but like, some people would, if you go down far enough, some people would take this offer for free, right? They wouldn't even want to get paid. Maybe they'd even pay money back to get the chance, you know what I mean? So at some point, people are going to say yes to Cloud9. Now, unfortunately, what it does mean is that as the further down you go, the worse the team's going to be. Now, look, do Okis, Encourage, and the other guys we're going to mention have some potential? Sure, I think they do. But all on the same roster at the same time with no, like, leader? I just don't see this working. And Zuma then reveals that actually, no, that isn't it. It's not just Okis and Encourage. There's more to it than that. I will say, if you're a Challengers kid out there, you really want to try and get yourself onto Huntsman, onto Stallions, onto these notable teams, because that's your ticket, right? Like, these guys, Encourage and Okis, people are talking about them more than they are talking about other players that placed top 16, top 24, because they're on the Stallions. They had the eyeballs. They were the ones that were going to get the call first out of the teams that finished top 24, right? And that's how it is. So this is the state of things. Now, Nate and Icons, we thought those were the two guys going to be joining Okis and Encourage on Cloud9, but apparently they also said no, and as a result, they've gone even further down the chain, and they've found Hyde, of course also a notable Stallion, and Nezra, who's not been a Stallion, and is a player that I've not been especially familiar with. Now, he's been around quite some time. He was actually on the Cabal Gaming team earlier this year. These were the Lineman cards that Lineman put together, and it's kind of tragic in a way. Like, you can't even get proper photos for these guys, right? And I don't know how, you know, when Cloud9 confirmed this, are they going to have a photo of Nezra to put on the graphic? I don't know. Anyway, people seem to think this kid's definitely got some talent. And so look, all the players they're signing, there's some talent there, but like, they've got no experience at this type of level. They've got no experience playing with one another. They've got, you know, their coach has been around a little bit of time, and Ariane, sure, but like, God bless his soul, right? Like, he's going to have a difficult time with this roster. So that is apparently the team of four. Okis, Encourage, Hyde, and Nezra, right? Like, look, with all due respect to those players and the people involved, this on paper, I guess last year's Falcons were super unknown, and they of course weren't good at all. But like, this has got to be the worst CDL team ever put together. The fact of the matter is, like, if these guys turned up to a Challengers Cup, a Challengers tournament, based on their seeding, they're getting like top 16, right? So in theory, they should be quite the way off being pro status, which is why it makes sense to take the offer, right? It's like, well, we would be top 16 in Challengers. So you're telling me I can play in the Pro League? Like, absolutely, I'll take a couple of racks a month to play for Cloud9. So, look, Doug says he's a pretty good SMG, this kid. Definitely good at hardpoint from his experience playing against him. This I thought was hilarious from This Is Ariane, their coach. A man who seeks to lead the orchestra must first turn his back to the crowd. So, you know, this goes really hard. Beans replies. I think Purge is in the replies as well, saying, wow, bro, that's pretty cold. I think what's funny about this is, like, I get the logic. He's trying to build this roster. He's on the phone, please sign to my team. Please accept the contract, right? And everyone's telling him no. So it's like he's not had much of a choice. I think that's what I find entertaining about this. If it was a situation where Ariane's put this roster together because he really believes in the potential of this quartet, and he's like, yeah, no one else sees the vision but I do, then sure, you tweet about the conductor leading the orchestra or whatever. But like, in this case, it's not like he's put together this roster because he's got some crazy vision for these players, and maybe they'll work out, or maybe it'll be much better than we expect. But like, he's only doing it because he has to, because he's got given the, you know, the rusty old keys by Cloud9 with absolutely no money. They're falling apart, and then he'll basically take you over and say yes. So I just thought that was pretty entertaining. At least that's my read on it. Who knows? Might be wrong. This is the roster. Encourage, Okis, Nidra and Hyde, we believe. Now, of course, the roster lock, we think, was yesterday, Monday. That's usually the roster lock day. So I'm pretty sure that has happened. And when we discuss Toronto in a second, that's going to be relevant. But yes, 3 members of Stallions. The roster would be the 15th North American Challenger seed. And that doesn't even count the European teams. I mean, there were 2 European teams in the top 3. I mean, Europe and Middle East and Africa, right? Considering Saudi Arabia, the ReeaL Esports team that won. So you consider global cards, you know, they're way down the order on paper. But who knows? Maybe things will work out better when they turn up to LAN or something. I mean, wow. It's going to be quite the story. And I think people are excited to watch it for good or for bad, just to see how these boys get on. So, like, I just wanted to share what Doug says real quick before we discuss the Toronto stuff, because Doug is always Mr. Positivity. And in this one, you can kind of see that Doug's like, raw, bloody hell, lads. This is going to be a wild ride.
All right, guys, I just finished my workout, and I saw this news that a lot of the Stallions players are going to Cloud9, New York. You got Encourage, Hyde, Okis, and Nedra going to the Pro League. They haven't played with each other. They're going to be playing against the best in the world in the Pro League. I really hope that these guys could not let the adversity get to them. I really hope that these guys could stay strong with each other and really just listen to each other and respect each other, because it's going to be a lot of pain and suffering when you're a young, inexperienced player, when you're grouping yourself up with a lot of other young, inexperienced players. This is not a move that I would recommend anyone to do ever. But obviously, if that's the role and that's the choice and that's what they want, and the players all agree to it, I want to support it. I want to wish them nothing but the best. I hope it could work out for them. But man, seeing a move like this in the COD League is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I'm definitely going to be tuning in. But man, I just really hope that these players can keep their heads on straight, because it's going to get real. It's going to get real fast.
I think the somewhat unfortunate thing about this is that the players, I get what they've done, and I don't think anyone's going to be, roasting and critical to the players too much. But it's like, they are going to get hate-watched to an extent, because people are going to be preying on Cloud9's downfall because of the decisions they've made. As Fame says, the coach has to build a roster with a budget that's less than some challengers teams. Wish the players well, but it's probably analysed. They're going to need the extra bread. So, look, they better be turning the streams on. That's all I'm going to say. And also, as I think Benjay said in reply to this tweet, the Lion Man cards will be getting paid for, right? Like, if you are one of the guys on that Cloud9 team that's getting forms, first of all, 1 or 2 of them are going to be in hell, because their teammates are going to be playing for the Lion Man cards so they can get a better roster in the future. And on some level, you can't blame them, right? Because what's the pitch? If I'm Cloud9's coach, am I telling them, oh yeah, I'm really confident we're going to make champs, boys, maybe we're going to make a run to the Sunday? It's like, no. The logic is, take the 2K a month and play for your Lion Man cards, maybe you'll get a better team. Like, that is the logic. So I think it is going to be a bit of a shambles. Now, the other thing that was said on stream last night was Scrap was in Zuma's chat talking about Kips. Now, he wasn't specific about this, and Zuma then kind of replies, and I'm not sure this is really happening, but and as I say, the roster lock was yesterday anyway, but Scrap was talking about some Kips rumours, just presumably a lot of the Huntsman boys obviously were targets, and Toronto, they did have a really tough time with the major. So anyway, Scrap was in the chat. This is what Zuma has to say about it.
It's a bad mic.
Kips to Toronto? What are you guys talking about, chat? Did they announce? Is something that leaked or something? Why are they saying Kips to Toronto, bro? Why are they saying that?
Who's saying that?
Oh, Scrap leaked it. Oh, Scrap leaked it, bro. Scrap leaked it. Ernie leaked it, Tony.
No, he did not. Ernie didn't. I'm reading your chat. Ernie didn't say a word.
Let me see. Leak the Kips info and kill Zinni's dope. Oh, leak the Kips info. That's what he's saying. That's what Scrappy's saying in my chat. He said leak the Kips intel. Leak the Kips intel.
So should Toronto do anything? They're actually on a 5-match loss streak, which I didn't quite realise. They lost a ton of games online before they turned up to the major. Then they turned up to the major. They lost to Gentlemates again. Then they lost to Heretics. Of course, that was the real stinker to bomb out of the tournament. Their numbers this year, look, JoeDeceives has been absolutely superb. ReeaL was really poor at the major, but apart from that, he's not been horrendous. Insight, I think, has been okay, but you could argue that, look, CleanX and Insight, they've had at it for many years. Have they delivered championships? Occasionally, yes. Have they delivered the World Championship? No. Is it time? Possibly. They're going to swap roles, we thought. ReeaL and CleanX switching it around. Insight stays as they are. Is there a world where they consider another alternative? They bring in somebody like Kips? Sure, I can see the logic there. But also, Toronto usually a team that moves relatively swiftly if they want to. So the idea that they've like waited until the absolute last minute and now they're going to get Kips in for Insight or something, I'm not so sure. But yeah, intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below regardless. A lot going on right now in the Pro League. It is an absolute mess. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.